Hey guys, Libby News here. So today I will be doing a character analysis on Hiyoko SAIONJI. I've seen a lot of requests for this over the past few months, and you guys have been really patient with this one coming out. It's always sort of been voted like second or third most popular on the character analysis type of voting system that I have. So I'm happy to finally do this because I feel like you guys have been really patient with that. And I do feel like she's a character that gets a lot of hate, so I feel like it'll be nice to have a video like this, not to justify her actions, but to try to explain them a bit to people that don't like her, and of course for people who do like her to enjoy. But anyways, without further ado, let's go ahead and get right into the video. So we learn that Hiyoko is the heiress to the SAIONJI clan. Hajime mentions that apparently the family is famous for their traditional Japanese dancing. This may seem totally obvious since she is the ultimate traditional dancer, but I wanted to bring this up because not only is it a famous last name, but SAIONJI mentions that it's so revered by others that bearing the SAIONJI name means dealing with jealous onlookers who would do anything from scattering dead mice over her bed to trying to have a stage light drop on her while performing. She mentions this in a hypothetical sense, but more than likely these events or events similar to these happen to either her or another heir to the family at some point. A lot of people I've seen online seem to refer to this as bullying too, but personally I think it's far more severe. In a couple of these instances, she mentioned she would have to fear for her very own life. In her free time events and Dog Island ending, we learn that she originally grew up with her mother and father, but then at an early age was taken away from them by her grandmother. When talking to Hajime about this, she seems to only like her father out of the three and appears to hold the most animosity towards her mother. When referring to her father, she says that he was the only one who was ever on her side and that she always felt calm when he was next to her. She describes her mom as a person who is all pride and no talent. Although we don't know much about the SAIONJI clan from the canon, I do think it can be perceived that they are very prideful when it comes to their title and that they are willing to uphold the traditions of their clan regardless of whether or not it might endanger Hiyoko's life. From this conversation, I believe that essentially her mother and grandmother wanted her to leave her parents' house and move in with her grandmother to focus on becoming the heiress to the clan and performing their traditional style. Obviously though, becoming the new heiress would mean that she could potentially run into the dangerous situations that she described to Hajime before. She gets angry when Hajime even refers to her by her last name, which implies to me that she originally did not want to become the heiress and that she was afraid of the cruel world she would have to face taking on this burden. She also implies that her father did object to all of this, but since he married into the family, he had no influence on the decision whatsoever. Something else I want to note is that SAIONJI at one point mentions that she's clumsy at everything except for dancing. This sort of implied to me that she more than likely has the belief that her only worth really comes from her talent. This might seem like a stretch, but bear with me. My theory is that since she came from this wealthy clan, they probably had servants do everything for her. Therefore, she never really learned how to cook, clean, or even tie her own kimono by herself. This might seem great, but my idea is that her grandmother probably didn't want her to learn how to do anything other than traditional dancing so that she would have to rely on the family and couldn't become independent. I think she wanted to learn how to do more things on her own, but was never taught to keep her in her place, and that this led to her feeling insecure and incompetent without her talent. So I think the family knew that she felt uncomfortable taking on their burden and did this as a way to keep her from becoming independent enough to leave. Something I believe supports this theory is her over-attachment to Mihiru. In her free time event, she becomes attached to Hajime because he reminds her of her father. Mihiru has a very distinct motherly nature, and as stated before, SAIONJI implies that her relationship with her mother is the worst out of all the family members. So I believe she sort of saw Mihiru as the female role model she never had and always wanted. If we were to go along with this theory I mentioned before, we can derive that her mother and grandmother never attempted to teach her how to do things on her own, like tie her own kimono by herself, and that tasks like these would have meant a lot to her because it could have greatly improved her overall confidence and independence. So we can note that the moment she became attached to Mihiru is after Mihiru helped tie her own kimono and tried to teach her how to tie it herself as well. She seems to imply that this small act meant a lot to her, and yes, it's a kind act, but I don't think it would have meant so much to her if it wasn't directly tied to some sort of insecurity from her past, which is why I came up with that theory that I mentioned before. It's just a theory though, so feel free to let me know if you guys have any different ones regarding it below. Later, when talking to to Hajime, she asks if he's familiar with the madness of Nakazu and says that it's about a dad who goes crazy, but in the end it's revealed that he isn't really crazy and that he just pretends to be crazy in order to protect his daughter from perverts. She implies that she wishes her father could have been able to protect her like the man in the story. Originally, when she was describing this, I immediately assumed that she was inferring that this was something her father would do for her or tried to do to protect her from the perverts who may watch her perform, but thinking it over, I think she might have actually been referring to herself in a way. So from her appearance, we see that physically she's not very strong, and although many times she tries to pass off her sensitivity and crying streaks as a way to manipulate the others, Hajime notes several times that she's actually very upset. So through that, we can see that deep down inside, she's not a very strong person emotionally as well. Basically, I think she wanted more than anything for her father to be able to protect her from the jealous onlookers and perverts of the world, but since she was separated from him, she had to learn how to protect herself. Assuming that everyone is out to get her, she had to become cautious of everyone she interacted with, since as mentioned before, the examples she used to describe what jealous onlookers do to top members of the SAIONJI clan is potentially life-threatening. It's no wonder she felt the need to develop a form of self-defense for herself. I believe the self-defense she created is the bullying that we see her do in Super Danganronpa 2 and in Despair Side as well. She puts on this sour attitude to intimidate the others so that they will fear trying to do anything to her. Some evidence for this is that the people she bullies the most are Mikan and Soda. She attempts to bully everyone, but most don't give a very strong response to it and sort of brush it off. But Mikan and Soda both have very weak emotional responses, which is why she focuses on them. She may tell the others them responding this way makes it more fun to mess with them, but I believe she really focuses on them, specifically Mikan, because it makes her look and feel stronger. I think she believes targeting Mikan so ruthlessly, so much in front of everyone, will make her appear as a stronger person, because in reality, since she believes that she herself is this incredibly weak and small girl, and that emotionally and physically there's not much she can do to actually protect herself, she puts on this act to intimidate others because really that's all she thinks she can do. She picks on Akane a lot as well and implies that she's not much fun to bully but seems to enjoy abusing how naive she is by tricking her into doing mindless things such as eating flowers. I think this could also connect back to the theory I mentioned previously, since I believe that SAIONJI herself thinks she's incompetent at everything besides dancing. It makes sense that she would pick on Akane to make herself look more intelligent to everyone else and to help convince herself that she's better too. In chapter 3, after Hiyoko apologizes and she finally agrees to work alongside him, Hajime mentions that she's trying to change as well. At first, I didn't really understand how or why she was changing, but now I think I get it. So as stated before, Hiyoko thinks that her misery is caused by having to take on the SAIONJI name and by the people or bullies that wish to harm her because of it. Her whole life, she's had to feel insecure and weak, fearing the real intentions of everyone she interacts with. She is ruthless when it comes to forgiving others, and will go as far to say that she would have spat on Teruteru during his execution if she could have. I'm not sure that she 100% meant this as much as it probably was just said to keep up her bully act, but I still wanted to note it because regardless, she would have never shown that weakness and willingly accepted an apology of someone that committed such an act before. As for Hiyoko and Peko, I feel that she would hate them more than any other killer or bully she's ever encountered, because not only did they kill her friend Mihiru, but they also saw her weakness and took advantage of it as a way to frame her for her friend's murder, and in doing this expose her vulnerability to the rest of the students. This was probably the first time she ever had to rethink her bullying self-defense strategy and realize that maybe it doesn't make her as strong as she thinks it does. In her Dangan Island ending with Hajime, she admits that she wants to be able to protect those that she cares about, such as her father. I believe the reason for this being that since the worst feeling to her is feeling weak and unprotected, it appears that she seems to think that protecting someone else is the greatest gift you can give. If she truly does wish to protect the one she she cares about, then she must have felt extremely guilty for Mihiru's death. She could have even felt more so that she was useless, incompetent, and weak for not being able to protect her. So after this situation, we see that her vulnerability is shown to all the other students. She realizes her bullying doesn't make her strong, which is the only stable thing she's ever been able to depend on for protection, and that because she's still weak, she wasn't able to protect the one person she cared about most on the island. This event must have completely destroyed her world, and I think this is why she's even more hostile towards Hiyoko after he initially apologizes. I think she herself feels guilty for what happened, and because of this wants to instinctively push the blame fully onto someone else to try and alleviate any guilt she might feel. And I do want to say here that I'm definitely not trying to say that they're both equally responsible for Mihiru's death or anything like that. Hiyoko is definitely the one here who is most responsible besides Peko, but regardless of that, I do think SAIONJI felt guilty about not being strong enough to protect her friend, and essentially felt that pointing the finger could help take away the guilt and self-loathing she probably felt regarding it. After Hiyoko tries to take his own life through seppuku is when she's finally able to change a bit. This is when she's able to look at Mihiru's actions and see that although the way she attempted to gain strength before was flawed, she could follow Mihiru's example and learn how to forgive and protect others like she says she wants to be able to do in her Dangan Island ending. That maybe she thinks that although she wasn't able to protect Mihiru's life, she would be able to at the very least protect her legacy. And if she did see Mihiru as the motherly role model she never had, then it makes sense that she would admire her and want to imitate her actions, hoping that she could gain her strength. I want to mention that after this though, she does appear to relapse once Nekomaru tries to sacrifice himself in place of Akane. I'm still a bit confused by this part, but I'll try my best to interpret it how I think she felt and why this happened. So as stated before, she probably realized that everything she thought she was doing to protect herself was wrong, and because of this she seems to want to change and become more like Mihiru and become stronger. But now seeing Nekomaru sacrifice himself for his friendship with Akane, it seems to make her doubt her newfound strength. I think maybe she could relate to his actions in the sense that she would want to be able to protect Mihiru the way he protected Akane, but seeing someone as strong as Nekomaru getting utterly destroyed by his actions reminded her of how fragile she really is, feeding into her fear that she wouldn't be able to ever protect the one she cares about or even herself. I think this is why the creators decided to show how she gave into her insecurities even more than before and chose to stay at the hotel and hide in her room before struggling with her kimono again. And after that, Sonia mentions how important it was for her to tie her kimono by herself since Mihiru taught her, so maybe she was so disappointed in herself for giving into her insecurities and not being able to be strong enough to work with the others like Mihiru would want, and felt that the least she could do was learn how to tie her own kimono the way she was taught. I'm honestly very curious as to how this chapter would have played out if she did survive to the end like the creators originally planned. It was a bit frustrating to sit down and analyze this and see how much her character develops just to relapse almost immediately and then die because she gave in once again to those securities that she had at the beginning. I feel like her character sort of got the wrong end of the deal, which has led to a lot of people disliking her, similar to Aruka, since both of their character arcs were cut short in my opinion. But this is all my interpretation. Feel free to let me know if you have any different opinions about it below. But this will conclude the analysis portion of the video, so let's go ahead and move on into the trivia portion. And as per usual, like 99% of this trivia will be taken from the Danganronpa Wikia page. SAIONJI translates to Western Garden Temple, while Hiyoko means child who brings forth day. Hiyoko is also the Japanese word for chick, as in baby bird. This association connected to Hiyoko's name matches her childish, innocent-looking appearance, as well as her hair color. She also has a chick print on her kimono, located just above her sash. Coincidentally, there's also a brand of bean jam filled buns called Hiyoko Sweets. Whether or not this was a reference to Hiyoko's sweet tooth or not isn't known. Hiyoko's title is often translated as the ultimate classical dancer. In original Japanese, she is known as the ultimate buyoka, or master of buyo dance, which is a traditional form of Japanese art that combines the act of moving to a rhythm and dancing. Hiyoko possibly enjoys playing Professor Layton, a mystery solving game, and the popular game Pokemon, because when Monokuma was introducing the Twilight Syndrome murder case, Hiyoko states that she wants to play games about riddle-solving professors and collecting cute monsters. As I mentioned before in the analysis, SAIONJI was originally planned to be one of the final survivors of the second game, but the writers realized that killing Kuzuryu off would make Pekko's death meaningless, so at the last minute they decided to kill off SAIONJI instead. This of course seems to explain why her character development sort of took a 180 and why her death was so sudden and felt a bit rushed. The translator for this piece of trivia also noted that they never even bothered to find her murder weapon in that trial. And finally, Hiyoko's English voice actress Kira Buckland also voices Kurumi Tojo in Danganronpa V3. But anyways, this will conclude the video. I do hope you guys enjoyed. Feel free to let me know if you have any opinions regarding SAIONJI and why she acts the way she does, or if you have any theories about her past or anything, and if you agree or disagree with mine. I had a good time trying to analyze her. I'd put a lot of thought into her character before, just because initially I was so confused as to why she acted the way she did when I first played the game. So this video was cool for me, and I hope other people enjoy it and can kind of understand her character a bit better. As for the next video, I'm not really sure. I still want to do a what if video, but I just am having like a hard time coming up with a good scenario that I think other people will enjoy and one that I think I'll be able to like make well. So hold tight on that. I was also thinking about doing another general analysis type video, maybe one that compares Naegi and Komaeda's luck, because I know a couple of you guys were asking about that. And also I was thinking about doing a video about Chiaki and how she was portrayed in the anime versus how she was portrayed in the game, because I feel like I get a lot of questions from people asking me to analyze her or to say whether or not I think she's a Mary Sue with the anime's characterization for her. So I think that could be an interesting video to make, and it's something I kind of have interest in because I have my opinions regarding it, but I haven't really sat down and thought about it super hard yet, so I think it could be interesting. But anyways, I do hope you guys enjoyed the video, and again, feel free to leave your opinions regarding SAIONJI or this video, and I will see you guys real soon.
Subscribe to Weeby News for more hope-filled videos.